What up, cucks? It's your boy, the hater, up in this mug. And today's 25 Reasons video is a personal favorite of the haters. However, before we get to that, as usual, please help your boy out by subscribing right now, cucks. The hater can't do it without you, and we got big plans. And in order to reach those big plans, we got to get a lot of subs. All right, let's get to it. 25 reasons why Mark Henry, that's right, Mark Henry is awesome, all right? Let's get to it. Reason number one, he was legit in his gimmick, right? His gimmick is not a lie. It is not a conjecture. It is a fact of life. Yeah, all right? Mark Henry was the world's strongest man several times. And as a result of this, the fact that his gimmick is a reality makes him cooler than before. Speaking of gimmicks, reason number two, it's sexual, baby. Oh, da-da-da-da-da. Oh, is it? The sexual chocolate was awesome, motherfuckers, and had an amazing theme song. I actually have this theme song in my Spotify, and when I go to the gym, sometimes I just listen to it while I do bicep curls. What do you think of them apples? Right? It gets me in the groove, motherfuckers. Reason number three, Mark Henry did not need to have any personality given what I just said in reason one, but he still did, right? This is a great lesson for all the personality zero having jobbers like Daniel Garcia, right? Oh, the company has nothing for me. Oh, my name's Rusev or Miro. The company has nothing for me. Well, develop a personality, and I'm sure they'd find something for you real quick. You know what I'm saying? Reason number four, he has recruited a number of WWE wrestlers and personalities. Chief amongst them, and most recently, Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, Samantha Irving. Or Irvine or Irving, I don't even know. Now, what do these three women have in common? Two things. Number one, they're all attractive. And number two, they were all found by Mark Henry. So one has to wonder whether or not Mark Henry gave them the world's strongest plowing. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like it came to a coincidence that it's three pretty girls. You know what I'm saying? They're like, we need a job. And Mark Henry said, I got a job for you. You know what I'm saying? It's sexual. He went back to sexual chocolate real quick. You know, maybe not. I'm just saying it just seems to be a weird coincidence. All right. It's like you don't hear like, oh, he discovered like fucking, Nathan Frazier or Axiom, right? You don't hear that. He's always discovering like good-looking women. Anyways, reason number four. That was reason number four. Cucks, deal with it. Reason number five. The world's strongest slam is maybe the most fitting finisher of all time. What do I mean by this, right? First of all, there's certain wrestlers like Ricochet, for example. One of his finishing moves is the recoil, right? Now, the recoil is a fun little name for a fun little wrestler named Ricochet because, when a bullet ricochets, you're shooting a gun and the gun might have recoiled, right? And, the code breaker, which is what the recoil is, does feel, it does feel like it should be called the recoil, doesn't it? Like, because you're kind of doing recoil damage almost, But Mark Henry doesn't need that, right? Mark Henry is beyond having names for a move because Mark Henry is presented, at least when he became the world's strongest man, as a serious wrestler, right? So because he's the world's strongest man, the gimmick carries the move. It would be kind of silly if Mark Henry's move was called like the Destroyer, or the Dominator. No, it's called the world's strongest slam because the world's strongest man would do a move called the world's strongest slam. It just fits, right? It just fits, motherfucks. And it fits, in my opinion, better than any other wrestling move and name has ever fit. And I know that I just ranted on and on about the name in these last few seconds, but the move also fits, right? It is this no-nonsense move with a no-nonsense name. He just picks the guy up, right, in basically like a little fall-away slam position, and then he just muscles him up and just slams him. Simple as that. Like, it's believable because it's the world's strongest man doing it to you, right? And it's not like a DDT or a bear hug or something like that, but it is a move that shows strength but it's a move that has high impact, right? And even if it's the safest move ever, it automatically looks badass because it's being done by Mark Henry. You know what I'm saying? Reason number 6, the Cena promo, right? Once again, this also serves as an example for reason number 5 as to why the World's Strongest Slam is an awesome finisher. One of my personal favorites, right? When Cena went for the hug, it was very seamless. Mark Henry went for the hug, it looked like it at least, but instead he hugged him vertically, picked his bitch ass up, World's Strongest Slam. And then he said, I still got a lot left in the tank. You know what I mean? The promo and the whole thing was awesome. It came out of nowhere. And even though I personally saw it coming, it doesn't matter that I saw it coming. The fact is that it was believable. The fans bought into it. They chanted, thank you, Mark. Even if they could see it coming, right? They still bought into it. Meaning that they were able to suspend their disbelief. And they're like, oh, like, and me as well. When I'm watching this video, I'm like, oh, this seems like a work, but what if it's real, right? Like, what if it's real? That would suck. I like Mark Henry, right? And I marked out big time when he hit the slam on Cena because I'm like, oh, this is what a real champion should be like, right? And in fact, like, I think everybody wanted Cena to, like, drop the title to him, like, including Cena. But it was Mark Henry who didn't want to do it because apparently he was, like, not in good shape. Like, it was hard for him to walk and everything. So, you know, good for Mark, but in my opinion, he should have been the world champ, like the WWE champ. But nevertheless, he got the other world title, which, you know, by that time was legit. It's like a legit world title. So, with all that being said, we've got reason number 7. When he was champion, he used a belt extender because he wanted to wear the title properly. Now, a lot of people might think, oh, this is kind of a silly reason, but there's absolutely nothing silly about it. This is a great reason because the reality is belts are meant to be worn around your waist. Now, obviously, that belt is not going around the waist of Mark Henry because he's fat. And also, not just fat, but he's large. So, for moments like that, they have belt extenders, right? People that put the belt over the shoulder, all this other stuff, it's almost disrespectful. Mark Henry wanted it to be like part of his presentation, right? It's not just something that he carries around. It's something that he proudly wears. And we're going to get to that a little bit later as well. Reason number 8, he put over a lot of random jobbers, right? And this is a credit and a testament to Mark Henry for a couple of reasons. Number 1, it doesn't matter like if Mark Henry is a jobber. If someone beats Mark Henry, they just beat the world's strongest man. So there you have it. I mean, that's enough to get someone over by itself. And Mark Henry was not shy about putting people over. Reason number 10, my personal favorite reason, not only of this video, but maybe of all of my 25 reasons videos. Mark Henry legitimately bet on himself and won. The story goes as follows, motherfucks. Mark Henry was basically dead in the water because he couldn't get himself over, right? He wasn't over. And apparently, simultaneously to this, people were talking shit about him online. Like all these strong men were saying like, oh, the new generation, maybe not shit about it specifically, that's a little bit too vague. But they were just saying like, oh, this new generation of strong men is not like the ones in the past. Nobody can compete with them. So Mark Henry took this personally. So he decides to call up good old Vinnie Mac. And he says, Vince, I want to go and compete in the world's strongest man competition and prove myself, right? Because these guys are talking shit. And Vince said, that's great, Mark. You can take the time off to do so. However, just remember, there may not be room in the WWE for the world's second strongest man. In other words, you better go out there and win, because if you are number 4, let's say Mark Henry's like, he places 8th, right? That's not marketable. Vince cannot say like, well, here's the world's 8th strongest man. Great, why don't you find the first one? Was he busy doing something else? Right? So Mark Henry went there, and guess what, motherfucks? Despite the fact, he was still in his prime, because he was like in his mid to late 30s, and I think mid to late 30s is like when you hit your like strength prime, maybe even 40s. Like some of these dudes like in the strongman, they're like old motherfuckers. But he went out there and he won. And what did this lead to? This led to yet another push and essentially a rebranding of Mark Henry as the world's strongest man. Now, why is this super, super, super important? A couple of reasons. Reason number 1, motherfucks. All of these other wrestlers that people seem to love that never get a push, right? I'm talking your Malachi Blacks. I'm talking your Miros. I'm talking your Keith Lees. All these guys could have done something like this. Now, obviously, none of these guys can go and win the world's strongest man. There can only be one of those, cuck. But they could do something else. Maybe Malachi Black can go and get himself over by winning an award on being the world's darkest jobber. You know, I don't know. Figure it out. Do something outside of wrestling to make yourself undeniable, right? Not like Cucky Rhodes pretended to make himself undeniable. I'm talking about like Mark Henry did. Mark Henry came back and he was like, yo, I'm the fucking world's strongest man. And you're going to push Yoshitatsu? Have you fucking lost your mind? Right? And Vince McMahon, who is smart, is like, oh shit, Mark just won this again. Like, the gimmick has been reinvigorated. Mark Henry's the world's strongest man, legit. So, how can I not make money off of this? So he pushed him. And this eventually also collapsed, but it doesn't matter. This was crucial in Mark Henry's career because this is what allowed Mark Henry to rebrand himself as the world's strongest man once again. And it allowed him to start using the world's strongest slam. He grew his hair out. He was trying to be different. And that was important, motherfucks. He came back with like long ass hair before he cut it to like his kind of long hair, but not really, you know. Mark Henry was great for that. And this is what wrestling's all about. This is what getting over is, right? Mark Henry would never have been in the Hall of Fame if he didn't go and win that second World's Strongest Man. Because, quite frankly, 90s Mark Henry is not a Hall of Fame worthy career. It's not, right? But 90s Mark Henry plus World's Strongest Man version 2 Mark Henry and beyond is definitely a Hall of Fame career. So that's my personal favorite reason. That's why I wanted to keep going on that for a while. Kagsumi, you know what I'm saying? Reason number 11. He is a caring dude, as shown both in the Owen Hart poem that he read when Owen Hart died, which was awesome, and his appeal to Owen's wife at the Hall of Fame. You could tell whether it was a good idea or not is a different story, but you can tell that he did it with love, right? He's a good man, Mark Henry. So, you know, that right there is another reason why he's awesome. Reason number 12. That's what I do. All right. That's all you need to know. A great catchphrase. But he's got a lot of great catchphrases and moments and things like that. That's what I do is my personal favorite. But he also has, I still got a lot left in the tank. He's got a lot of little moments here and there, right? The I'm different, all that other stuff. The Hall of Pain, all that, you know, he's just like, he understood what his character was, should be this reason. But I wrote it down as, that's what I do. Reason number 13, he claims he invented the spot where a wrestler rolls back and picks the opponent up. He did it with Rey Mysterio a couple of times. He claims he invented it in a house show, but I don't exactly remember the timeline. But the first time I saw it, and back then I would watch every episode of SmackDown and Raw, I think it was Orton and Batista. Orton and Brock Lesnar. Randy Orton had it was like his second match in the WWE. He had like no gimmick. He climbs the top rope, he does a cross body. Lesnar just like tries to pick him up or, you know, grab him, but he just rolls through, picks him up, F5. So, but Mark Henry claims to invent it, and that seems to be the accepted story. So, if he invented that, that's awesome. You know what I mean? That's a legit like spot now that you can look forward to in matches with certain people like Cena or Lesnar or even Mark Henry, right? Reason number 14. He has one of the best entrance theme songs ever. I already serenaded all of you with It's Sexual, Baby, but I'm not talking about that this time. Now, I'm talking about Say What? Dun, 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 dun. Somebody's gonna get their ass kicked. Somebody gonna get a wig split. You know, that theme song by 3-6 Mafia, which obviously are legends, Academy Award-winning legends, might I add, just fits him perfectly. Especially this line by, I believe, DJ Paul, where he says, step up to me, little buddy. You stepping up to a gorilla. Think about that. And he even leveraged that to become the silverback, right? That's how cool Mark Henry is. But think about that. There's some people that are like that you would never step up to like Mark Henry. Like, I don't care who you are. You're not going to step up to Mark Henry and be like, do something, Mark Henry. Because he might legit just give you the world's strongest slam just to stick the character, you know what I mean? Reason number 15. He was the first man ever, aside from Thomas Inch, to lift the unliftable inch dumbbell, right? As far as I know, he was the first one to do it. There's one other guy that may have done it. There's this old man that was able to kind of like almost curl it, kind of like drag curl it. This one man was able to drag curl it, like he was like an old man. He drag curled it like, 50 times or something insane, right? But Mark Henry was able to lift it over his head with one arm. He did the Thomas Inch lift. Look it up. It's fucking insane, right? Now other people can do it. Like the world's strongest man currently, who's now like, he actually was on WWE Clash of the Castle. because he's from Scotland. That guy can do it. Like, I've seen him do it easy. Like, like, that guy is like another level. He's like way stronger than Mark Henry. But, you know, who gives a shit? That guy doesn't have the charisma of Mark Henry. He doesn't do the world's strongest slam. He's boring. Anyways, reason number 16. He was buried countless times, but got himself massively over each time. You know what I'm saying? You can't say anything bad about that. The fact is, every time he was buried, he was able to get himself over, right? He was able to do whatever it took to get himself over, right? And as JBL famously said, when Michael Cole asked one of the dumbass Michael Cole questions of, what's gotten into Mark Henry these last couple of weeks? And JBL said, Maggle, maybe it's because Mark Henry's name hasn't been mentioned since the Clinton administration, Maggle, right? And that's true. It's like, nobody give a fuck. They slept on Mark Henry. So one day, he was like, wait a second, I'm the world's strongest man. I'm going to go whoop this guy's ass. That's what he did. You know what I'm saying? Mark Henry rules. Reason number 17. He is legitimately hilarious. You can listen to his interviews and you'll laugh your ass off. Apparently, he's getting into comedy, which I find to be very awesome because he's funny and I like Mark Henry. You know what I'm saying? Reason number 18. He legitimately valued his title win. All right? Like, I don't know what show it was. It was one of those morning shows where he came in there when he was the world champion and he talked about it. And he talked about it with such pride and such charm that I was like, wow, this guy really, really appreciates the fact that he reached this level in his career, right? And you can hear it in other interviews when he talks about it, right? It's not like Dean Ambrose who wins it and he does like make some weird faces and he makes that dumbass face where he's like kind of like realigning his jaw as if it hurts. Like, so stupid, you know what I mean? And it's like he doesn't deserve it at all, whereas Mark Henry's fucking Mark Henry, you know what I'm saying? Reason number 19. He was a member of the Nation of Domination, which was awesome, motherfucks. Reason number 20. This one shouldn't even need to be said. But he obviously is a believable world champion and a believable wrestler by extension of that, right? You don't have to explain to someone, like, look, Rey Mysterio, one of my favorites, right? But I remember one time I was watching wrestling and my mom comes into the room. She came back from work or something. And she's like, oh, what's going on here? And I'm like, what do you mean, Mom? I'm watching wrestling. She's like, oh, isn't that like Rey Mysterio or whatever? She knows like the big names, right? And that's all she knows. She knows like the big names. And she knows like the guys that, like when she walks by, she's like, oh, who's that guy? He's very handsome. Like, you know, like the Randy Ortons, like the, you know, the Roman Reigns, those kind of people, right? So she's like, what? He's the world champion? I'm like, yeah, you see, Mom, Eddie Guerrero died and he won the Royal Rumble. She's like, that's stupid. Like, it's not believable, right? So I have to explain to my mom why they made Rey Mysterio champion and how he won the match. Oh, he won with a roll-up, essentially, with like the West Coast pop, right? With Mark Henry, you don't have to explain anything to anybody. You could just bring anybody who doesn't watch wrestling and be like, this is Mark Henry, he's the world champion. Everyone would be like, oh, cool. Who's he going to fight? Right? Nobody's going to ask you, well, what? That guy's the world champion? No one's ever going to say that about Mark Henry because he's fucking Mark Henry. You know what I'm saying? Reason 21. He tolerates, backstage nonsense like propaganda, careerist nonsense, like the Big Show saying that Cena is the strongest guy he's ever faced. Like, I know Big Show's trying to put Cena over, but Mark Henry's obviously stronger than Cena. That's just silly, right? Reason number 22. He once legit ripped a chain apart at the padlock, right? He ripped a padlock apart, right? So he could get into the Hell in a Cell or the cage or whatever, right? And he even said in the Chris Van Vliet interview, he's like, I could have just climbed over that thing. And that just sounds crazy. But I did watch this episode of whatever, Table of Three. It was Big Show, Kane, and Mark Henry. And Kane said that, like, Mark Henry for a warm-up once did like 7 pull-ups. You know what I'm saying? Imagine how strong this fuck is. Go do 7 pull-ups, right? And then go do it if you're 400 pounds, right? It's for his warm-up, he did 7 pull-ups. So Mark Henry could easily have climbed that bitch. You know what I'm saying? Reason number 23, another personal favorite reason. He is a company man. During this entire time, I have never heard Mark Henry say, I deserved more than I got. You see what I'm saying? I've never heard him say that. He is a company man through and through. He worked in WWE for like 20 years. He did exactly what they told him to do. He killed it every time, and he was rewarded with a championship, right? I feel the same way about Mark Henry as I do about Christian, and even, I hate to say it, but even Kofi Kingston, right? They're company men. Kofi Kingston has been out there for 25 years or whatever the fuck. It's been a minute, you know? He's been out there doing exactly what he's told to do. So when he won the title, even though I thought it was a little bit manufactured, I was happy for Kofi because I'm like, oh man, this guy's put in the work. You know what I mean? Like, Kofi Kingston he's definitely going to be a Hall of Famer. And it's like, if you think about everything Kofi Kingston has done, the fact that there was like a 10, 15-year period where every week you could rely on Kofi Kingston to go out there and put on a match. He's like Dolph Ziggler, but like better than Dolph Ziggler because he has personality. So shout out to the people that I just mentioned, cucks. Reason number 23, which is what I just said. So we're moving on to 24, cuck. This is an extension of reason 23. Reason 24, he is open about his shortcomings. In a recent interview that I saw, or maybe it was in the Hall of Fame speech that I saw, because I saw it recently, he explains basically that for the first few years of his career, he didn't know what the fuck he was doing, right? And he explains how he didn't put his all into it, and he should have. And this also served as a piece of advice. So this goes back to the other reason about being a company man, meaning that this guy, just everything they gave him, he learned. He was a sponge. He didn't fucking, bitch and moan like all these people do on the internet. Oh, WWE didn't know how to use me. I'm now here. I can be myself. I can be Keith Lee. I can be Miro. Yeah, that's right. You'll never be Mark Henry, though, so get the fuck out of here. Pin this bitch. Reason 25. All of his pushes made sense, right? Another personal favorite reason of the haters. His pushes were predicated upon logical things that happen in people's lives, right? And, in my opinion, his on-screen career mirrors his real career, right? Because the only way you can explain why Mark Henry is teaming up with MVP in a tag team where he's the second guy and he's wearing a red singlet and allowing these jobbers to like the Usos, and people are going to be like, you look like the Kool-Aid man, and he just like laughs like an idiot. The only reason why that would make sense from a character perspective, from a kayfabe perspective, is that Mark Henry is just he's not invigorated anymore, right? He just wants his paycheck and he's happy to be there. But when Mark Henry gets serious, like, that's just common sense, right? You'd be like, oh shit, we shouldn't have done that. We shouldn't have made this guy get serious, because if this guy gets serious and he actually applies himself, like kayfabe-wise that is, he would kill us all, right? He would murder everybody, right? And another extra reason, this has been covered here, a number of ways, and it's obviously an extension of like his strength, but there was a moment, right, when Mark Henry was getting his World's Strongest Man, like Hall of Pain push, there was a moment where he was meant to put Big Show through a table, right? I had no idea how age worked, right? And I had no idea how age worked in the context of strength, right? So I'm like, oh, Mark Henry must be almost 40. Like, surely he can't pick up the Big Show. I didn't realize that that's when people were like the strongest, but nevertheless, right? Like, he hasn't done anything like this in a while. He's been like just jobbing to like MVP and shit. So like, can he fucking do this? I thought to myself foolishly, right? And what happened was Mark Henry not only picked up the Big Show, and also I'm like, the logistics don't make sense. Mark Henry's arms aren't long enough to just kind of cup the Big Show and hold him like that. He can do that to like Rey Mysterio and almost make his hands touch. But with Big Show, that's going to be a tall order, right? It's not just the massive weight of the Big Show. It's the awkwardness of the hold, right? But Mark Henry I'll never forget it, motherfuckers. I'll never forget myself in my bedroom. I think it was in high school. And I'm just fucking freaking out how he did this. He just picks up the Big Show in the World's Strongest Slam. And I'm like, oh my God, he did it. But it's going to be one of those, when like a wrestler really can't do their move? Like if you go and look at like Kevin Nash doing the jackknife powerbomb on the Big Show, where it's like a half-assed jackass and he just kind of like drops the Big Show and he also falls, right? Because he can't reasonably hold the Big Show up like that. Or when The Undertaker would do like the last ride to people like the Big Show, but it would be always set up with Undertaker being in the corner and Big Show doing punches to his head, and Taker would just kind of like move him a little bit and drop him because he couldn't hold him up. Not Mark Henry, motherfuckers. He picked up the Big Show, and then I remember he's just holding him there like Big Show is a child. And he's like looking left and right with that face, the face of an angry man. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, this guy is a fucking hoss because he's holding the Big Show like he is a nothing. And then not only that, he doesn't take the easy way out. He doesn't just fall forward because he's basically just above the table. So it's going to break no matter what because the Big Show and Mark Henry are falling on it. But he like jerks him upwards, right? And does like a full-blown World's Strongest Slam on the table. Like it was nothing. It looked the same way that it would look when he did it to like Evan Bourne or these other beta males compared to the Big Show, right? It was insane, motherfucks. And for those reasons, I am proud to say that Mark Henry fucking rules. Cuckolds!